Dyatlov Pass is a very famous story about these hikers that go missing in the 1950s.
The Dyatlov Pass incident is a dramatic and mysterious true story that unfolded in Sverdlov Oblastov, USSR in 1959.
On the 23rd of January 1959, a group of students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a trip into the vast wilderness of the Ural Mountains.
The Dyatlov Pass incident, so yes.
Every year, 100,000 people disappear in Russia, and 25% are never found. That is
This is the last photo taken by a group of experienced Russian hikers the night they disappeared in February 1959, here in the remote Ural Mountains in western Siberia.
9 young, fit, experienced people died brutally in the freezing, snowy, lonely mountains, hundreds of kilometers from the nearest settlement. So what happened?
In the winter of 1959, 9 Russian adventurers were on a 200-mile cross-country hiking expedition making their way through the Siberian wilderness. This was
called the Dyatlov Pass incident that occurred in the 50s in Russia, where you had
Dyatlov Pass incident.
Sports club on February 12, 1959, from the village of Visay to announce that their 2-week trek was complete. But those 9 hikers, mostly students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, or UPI, never sent one. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, had even...
In early 1959, a group of hikers decided to head out on an expedition across the mountainous region of Western Soviet Union.
In the winter months of 1959, a group of 9 young, experienced hikers began their journey into the Ural Mountains of Russia.
You know what's scary? Not monsters, not ghosts, not even darkness. What's really scary is when something happens in real life and nobody can explain it. That's why the Dyatlov Pass case still creeps people out today. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers went deep into the frozen Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union.
Igor Dyatlov was a 5th-year radio engineering student at one of the top technical colleges in Russia. He'd built a telescope to watch Sputnik travel across the sky and hoped to go into the new field of cosmonautics. Dyatlov was also an avid and ambitious member of the UPI Sports Club, which would go on wilderness expeditions in the nearby Ural Mountains.
And they go out on this trip, and this is the 1950s, so there's no cell phones or anything. They just had these checkpoints they would have to hit, where there'd be campsites set up and a team waiting for them. And if they hit these campsites on time, it meant they covered the distance they were supposed to, and they'd get a check or whatever. You know, you're progressing exactly as you should.
They never came back. When rescuers finally found them, the scene made no sense. The tent had been cut open from the inside. Some of them were found half-dressed in freezing temperature. A few had horrifying energies, broken ribs, crashed skulls. One was missing a tongue, and to this day nobody knows exactly what happened. So, what really happened that night?
The 9 trekkers were due to arrive at the next town around February 12. Igor, the group leader, had promised to send a message to their sports club as soon as the group made it over the pass and back to safety. By February 20th, the 9 trekkers still didn't show up, so a search party was called. And this was a serious effort. Military helicopters were sent into the mountains with teams of searchers made up of police, prison camp guards, indigenous Mansi tribes people, and volunteer students from the same university as the lost group.
With food, equipment, route planning, everything, Their goal: complete a difficult skiing expedition across the northern Ural Mountains. Hard? Yes. Impossible? No.
That they could be refuted as a conspiracy story, yet multiple evidences that cover real records, pictures, files, autopsy reports, and official documents strongly point out that every bit of Dyatlov Pass incidents is true and not a hoax.
They'd done difficult trips before, which makes what happened next even stranger.
For this expedition, they traveled by train to Ivdel, a small town in the province of Sverdlovsk Oblast, before journeying yet further north by truck and horse cart. The starting point for their hike was one of the least populated settlements in northern Russia.
The trip started normally. They were documenting everything, taking photos, writing journals, joking around. Actually, when you look at their pictures, they seem happy, relaxed, normal.
Their plan was to hike from the city of Vizhai to the top of a mountain called Otorten. It was going to cover 306 kilometers over 14 days.
Nothing feels ominous. Nothing suggested they were afraid. Then weather conditions got worse.
Surviving in these conditions was almost impossible. On the evening of the first night, one of the searchers raised a toast to the missing 9 people. Another said best not to drink to their health. His face was heavy, but to their eternal peace.
Snowstorm, heavy wind, low visibility. At some point, they drifted off course, and instead of camping in a sheltered forest area, they pitched their tent on the slope of the mountain called Kalot Cycle. The name translated roughly Mountain of the Dead.
The trek began in earnest from there on the 27th of January. The group of friends were in good spirits as they set out into the wilderness, led by 23-year-old engineering student Igor Dyatlov.
Not exactly comforting. The night would be their last.
This landscape swallows any trace of these people who have gone missing, leaving endless questions about what could have happened and where these people may have gone.
Weeks passed. No communications. Families got worried. Search teams were sent out. When rescuers found the campsite, things got weird. Very, very weird. The tent was still there.
This is in part because nearly every time someone tries to explain it, they base their theories on common myths, inaccuracies, and misinterpretations of the facts. It's almost the rule, not the exception, for there to be mistakes or crucial details left out, and they often leave major questions unanswered.
But it had been sliced open from the inside. Think about that. Imagine being inside a tent in a
Mount Kholat Syakhl literally means the Mountain of the Dead in the local language of the Mansi tribe of Siberian natives. It had already gained negative notoriety long before the Dyatlov Pass incident, which occurred on the side of this mountain.
Snowstorm, and instead of calmly exiting through the entrance, you cut your way out. Why? That suggests panic, urgent panic. Something scared them badly enough to escape immediately. And it gets worse. Footprints in the snow showed the group left mostly on foot. Not running wildly, not all at once. Some were barefoot, some wore socks only. In freezing temperatures, that makes no sense. No experienced hiker willingly walks into sub-zero darkness, half-dressed, unless something inside that tent terrified them more than the cold outside.
They just had these checkpoints they would have to hit where there'd be campsites set up and a team waiting for them. And if they hit these campsites on time, it meant they covered the distance they were supposed to and they'd get a check or whatever. You know, you're progressing exactly as you should. And I think they hit their first checkpoint and then they did not hit their next checkpoint at the designated time.
The first bodies were found near a cedar tree, 2 hikers barely clothed. They had tried to start a fire.
Each of the members of the 10-man group were certified Grade 2 hikers, and the completion of the trip would make them Grade 3, which at the time was the most prestigious hiking certificate in the Soviet Union.
That tells us something important. They were trying to survive. They weren't instantly killed. Then 3 more bodies were found between the tree and the tent, almost like they were trying to go back, trying to return, trying to get supplies. Then months later, the last 4 bodies were discovered under deep snow. These victims had the strangest injuries: broken ribs, massive chest trauma, skull fractures. One victim had severe facial damage. Another had no tongue. Here's what confused investigators.
When someone disappears, they face odds that would terrify even the most prepared survivors.
The internal injuries were devastating, but external wounds minimal. That's why people started saying things like, it looked like the force of the car crash. And that opened the door to theories, lots of theories.
2 of the 9 bodies were found by the tree line about a mile away from camp. And despite temperatures dropping to negative 30 degrees Celsius, the 2 bodies were curiously wearing nothing but underwear.
Theory number 1. Avalanche. The most accepted explanation today is avalanche. A sudden slow collapse hits the tent. Panic, they caught their way out. They flee. Simple, right? Honestly, part of me thinks this makes sense. It explains urgency. It explains why they abandoned gear. But there are problems.
The group kept a record of their adventure with written journals and photographs. All early images show the group smiling and laughing together as they set out into the snow. After just 1 full day of hiking, however, the group suffered its first casualty.
Some investigator argued the slope wasn't steep enough for a classic avalanche. Others said the snow evidence didn't fully match. Still, modern studies suggested a delayed slab avalanche cold. Avalanche could be possible. So avalanche possible. Case closed. Not.
A nearby tree had broken branches up to about 5 meters high that suggested maybe they climbed the tree to maybe look around for something. So they investigated the tree and actually found traces of human skin on the bark, so that kind of supported that theory.
Not for everyone. Theory number 2, military experiment. This theory became famous because Soviet secrecy. Some witnesses reported strange orange lights in the sky. That sounds suspicious.
There were these, I forget how many, like 2 or 3 of these missing hikers that were deceased. They were nude or close to nude, and there were all these scratch marks on this tree that looked like an animal had been clawing at it, and I think one of them had actually gotten into a tree and passed away up there, and they'd all died of exposure ultimately, but that was only like 3 of the missing hikers.
People began wondering, missiles, explosions, secret weapons. Some even claimed radiation was detected on the clothing.
There were 2 bodies next to the remains of a campfire. They would turn out to be 2 of the students named Yuri, and they were wearing barely anything apart from their underwear. The bodies were frozen stiff. Their hands and feet were, to quote the student who found them, reddish brown. Their legs, once athletic and powerful, were purple and solid with the cold.
That made the conspiracy grow fast. Could they have witnessed military testing? Maybe. But there is a problem. Strong evidence is missing. There is suspicion.
In fact, there were reportedly traces of radiation all around the campsite.
Remorse, strange details, but nothing definitive. Still, people love these theories because it feels like something was hitting.
On February 25th, one group found ski tracks on a remote mountain that the Mansi called Kolatsiako, reportedly translating to Dead Mountain. Following them to the edge of the forest, they climbed the pass for about 500 meters when they saw the tent.
Theory number 3, panic.
The weather conditions on the 1st of February were poor, with howling winds and driving snow causing the group to veer off course.
Infrasound. This one is fascinating. Some researchers think wind around the mountain created something called infrasound. Low-frequency sound humans cannot consciously hear, but can physically feel. It may trigger anxiety, fear, panic, a sense of doom. Imagine this: darkness, violent wind, freezing cold, exhaustion, and your brain suddenly screams, danger, run. You might make irrational decisions, and irrational decision in extreme cold can kill fast.
But increased active exploration of this region in the second half of the 20th century supported the deadly name of the mountain. To this day, people are dying there. The cause of their deaths often cannot be attributed to any rational explanation.
I don't think there was one.
One of the last known pictures captured by Nikolai's camera, it's grainy, black and white, of course. It shows trees and the ground caked with snow. And in the background, an unknown figure emerging from behind a tree, faceless, tall, with long, long arms. In a separate diary entry, one of the group writes, "We now know that snowman, Yeti, exists."
Single cause. I think several things happen at once. Harsh weather, fear, confusion, bad decision under pressure. Maybe an environmental trigger, maybe something unexpected.
Another popular supernatural theory for this case has been the idea that aliens were to blame for the deaths of the 9 hikers.
And that's what makes
the hikers, their conclusion was the hikers died from some unknown, unnatural cause. End. Closed case.
Dyatlov passed.
A bear maybe, wolves, or a wolverine slashing into the tent. Something territorial, fast, and mean enough to send even seasoned hikers into a blind panic.
So haunting, not because it proves something supernatural.
30 years later, after the initial investigation in 1990, Ivanov published an article claiming that the hikers had been killed by balls of fire or heat rays associated with UFOs.
But because sometimes real life is more terrifying than fiction, 9 people went into those mountains, and the full truth may have died with them. So what do you think happened? Let me know in the comments.